Okay, so today's webinar topic is very fantastic because because recently there was a lot of activities in healthcare space utilizing generative AI, especially large language model in like developing so-called like a medical device, but mostly in the software and powered by AI and machine learning. And particularly that generative AI is one of the like machine learning, but it's very different features. So for the with respect to regulatory scope, that for example, United States FDA recently had like a meeting about how to make like a framework to comply this kind of like a new type of device to make like a safe and then effective. Okay, so first I'll share my screen and then so you will see that we have two distinct speakers in addition to me. So first speaker is Kyle Faget and Michael Galliker. So we have like three big agendas, like a Haskell generative AI regulatory frameworks, and then generative AI, specifically large language model agent power device, and what is challenging compliance and future directions. So first, I want to be like in full screen. So schedule looks like I will talk about what is the Haskell generative AI agent regulation framework. And then I'm because I could not sure that Carrie is already joined, but if not, then actually that Michael will take over first, and then followed by Cure. So so I will after my talk actually it's supposed to be Kyle he will share he's an attorney. I'm also attorney, but I'm a hybrid. I'm attorney and the innovator. And the Carrie is working on in the very famous local Boston law firm Foley and Landers. And she hear about the legal aspect to about the insight for the evolving regulatory landscape. And then finally, Michael will share his like a fantastic work, large language model powered regulation agent for global compliance. And then, if time allows, we will have a Q&A. So I will explain that what is background to actually to get this kind of topic that we are going to talk today. So this is the one thing that have in mind that I captured this one this summer that the FDA provided information that FDA approved the AMA in the medical device landscape. So actually, they provided 950 approved device. And then I just analyzed their information and I found that they are mostly in radiology and the cardiovascular in like medical specific. And then also like I look at the who actually in reading this area. But the particular thing is that because FDA recently have focused on this space because of the this is not traditional because here is a medical device that yeah, I look at this space and then I found that half of them actually software. So they call software as medical device. So it's not traditional. And even with that, it is they define software as a medical device. The traditional is the system or hardware. And then it is powered by AI ML. So AI ML component itself is a medical device. So this is the one situation that FDA providing some regulatory framework to comply if we are developing this kind of the product as a medical device. And then after that, actually, they also go further because not just the traditional AI ML, the static, but they have a look at the like general AI. The general AI is everybody knows that they can create something, right? So create something means that they can change dynamically the features, right? So recently, this is, you see that November 20th, this is just a few weeks ago, then just less than 1 month. And then I have a look at their like hearing. So they have 2 days of the full day hearing. And I look at all the hearing. And then they provided some the initial draft of the like their regulatory framework to see the total product lifecycle consideration for generative AI enabled devices. And then so I just summarized, so if you are interested, and that I just summarized the 2 days meeting and here. And then I just also posted in my LinkedIn that summary of the different sections. So this motivate that, okay, so generative AI enabled medical devices not in the industry, but also like in the government regulatory framework, they are concerned about how to harmony between the innovation and regulation. And further that, in the even with even already have a conflicts, right? But among the like a generative AI, there is a one thing actually coming out, and it'll be emerging trend, and then it'll be the key enabler to like developing innovation from next year is we call AI agent, right? So by the reason that I just the publish my book, and then if you're interested, you can ask me. So recently, I just posted in my previous webinar about my previous the last week webinar topic was a healthcare AI agent. So we covered our topic with the speakers, and then I posted the link, and then I found a lot of people are interested in this topic and ask about the copy. So we did this one with this speaker, for example, the Manish is expert in this area for 20 years, and the book author, and with the Google, and the Siva was very expert, creative guys developing the platform to develop AI agent. So for me actually, I'm not going to play this one right now, but this is one actually that I'm interested in. And myself, innovator and also like a lawyer. So I have found that the intersection of this like innovation and the legal like area, and I found that the industry people are looking for some help that they are very difficulty in even understand what the framework, but how they comply in the pathway. So actually, I tried myself as an inventor and innovator and a lawyer, so I try to understand what the current regulatory framework and how I can support using AI agent, because AI agent can do be very similar to the regulatory agent. Actually, the Michael will introduce his agent in the next talk. But anyway, because so I look at this space and okay, so as a lawyer and innovator, I can think of I can have them. So if you are interested in that, this is a platform, and I filed a patent. I have a idea that actually how can I have utilizing AI agent to help people to comply the regulatory framework. So it have like to make like innovate to understand what is a document. Document is very jargon, something like the legal jargon to understand interpretation. So AI agent convert them is a plain language to make them have. And then they explain about what the like regulatory pathway and what your product actually apply, and then what is the best strategy, and then how actually to comply with some specific terms of the regulatory frameworks, and so on and so on. So this is one actually the early stage, but this is one. And additionally, because of this motivated me, I found Michael because he is doing the similar thing. So you will see what this means. He's more advanced than me because I'm in the idea stage, but he's already have his product, so you will see his demo. And then, so I will explain because a generic AI agent enabled medical device, but you should be know that still I couldn't find any real life generic AI agent enabled medical device yet. Maybe somebody already developed because of, for example, that as I mentioned that in my book, you see that there are a lot of the like application. So this can be like a product as a medical device. So for example, this is the one actually you will very interesting. Like they can be AI agent for any specific medical specialties like cardiology, radiology, whatever. So it means that AI agent can be like an AI doctor in the future. So this is fantastic. I'm not sure when it will happen, but okay. So this is not yet real life product, but if it will be happen in the future, so that means what even with a general AI enabled medical device has a complexity, but even with that adding agent, so what is the difference between the just traditional like general AI enabled product and the general AI agent product? Because this agent, they are very similar to human line, right? They can like they know about the conceptually, they know about their reasoning, they memorize reasoning and then decision making autonomously, right? Very human-like. So that's why even it adding more complicated, right? But as a lawyer, I train as a law school that the law, especially I train in the technology area, and then especially innovation, that the function of a law is to supporting innovation in society, right? And then, but what happened is that they are always lag behind because like innovation is so fast, but the legal matter is not the follow up the speed. So that's why it's very like likely that you should start right now think about this agent matter, even if you're in the regulatory framework. So that's why I invite several people in FDA, and then also like I invite just like the committee member of that like the FDA the compliance, but they did not join today, but they will see that right in the future. They need it, right? Even with a generative AI enabled device, they will see generative AI agent enabled device. So that's why I started this one. And so, what's so different, right? Here is the like a challenge. Even with already have a complex into general AI enabled device, the adding complex is their cognitive ability and autonomous decision making. It's a completely different scheme, right? So I want to make, and so I have an article. So I just summarize everything here. So if you're interested, and then you can look at it detail later. But I want to just notice this one, right? Because this is a Harvard like review article that they look at the how to regulate generative AI in healthcare. So they didn't even talk about agent, but I see that because the guy actually talk about this one is he was a former like a chair. He's like a head of the like a digital excellence in within the like FTA, and then he was like the provider of the generative AI framework in within when he was in FTA. He moved to Google now, and then he said that like we need a new framework, especially it looks like their intelligence, right? So traditional the framework will work, but you know that it's very radical. It's very radical, so it cannot be accepted in the government framework. But will happen in the future sometime, right? Because of the that I mentioned that the this one, right? What they think they talk about was that we need like the compliance regulatory framework as if that we regulate the healthcare professionals. So they think about this kind of device as a human like a professional. But here see that agents are very similar to doctors, right? So their radical idea that everybody says is so radical, maybe sometime we'll need this one, right? So who knows? And this is one actually the what happening now. Why I'm sure that this will happen because of the other sector that I'm working in is they call Web3, decentralized space. That everything is connected in a decentralized way, and then blockchain power this space that for example, like this is actually what happened. 1 billion AI agent will coming. So actually, the develop the you know that this is venture capital. So they have a lot of capital driving this direction, and this happened now. And then you see that politically, that Trump, you why they hire new AI and crypto. right? You shouldn't have like traditionally they think of AI or crypto. Why they hire AI and crypto, right? Convergence. That's my expectation. So I organize a wedding, like a meeting for this kind of like convergence of the like a Web3 and AI agent to they will revolutionize every space, but especially finance and healthcare. So I will organize in January. That's why. Okay, so this is an normal status. This is near the end. I did a lot of the webinar of this kind of thing. So here is all my speakers. I thank you for them, and then I'm going to have the next Friday have this meeting. So this appendix, actually, all the topics that I mentioned about very detailed. That it come from my. I did this about the 3 time of the like this kind of webinar before. So this summarized my previous webinar. So if you are interested in, and I already shared the link of this presentation. So let's check whether speaker. Oh, she's not here. Okay, so I think that the Michael, could you start first?
I can go if you want. I think I
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah, yeah,
Here. Nice meeting you because I couldn't
yes,
find you. Yeah.
no problem whatsoever. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Faget. I'm a partner at Foley and Lardner in Boston. I'm also the co-chair of our area of focus for medical devices. And Alex had asked me if I would give sort of an update, a regulatory update on what's happening in the AI and generative AI space today, maybe take like 15 minutes to do that. And so I thought what I would do today is talk about two kind of big developments over the past couple of weeks. One of them, Alex already mentioned, which was the Digital Health Advisory Committee met on November 20th and 21st. And so I wanted to talk through some of the key themes that came up there. And then also, FDA released its final guidance on marketing submissions for a predetermined change control plan. I'll start with the Digital Health Advisory Committee. So just so you all know, level setting, the Digital Health Advisory Committee, and I'll refer to it as the DHAC, it's comprised of industry representatives and consumer organizations. The point of it is that it's to advise the FDA commissioner on issues related to digital health technologies. It has as a goal providing relevant expertise and perspective to improve FDA's understandings of the benefits, risks, and clinical outcomes associated with use of digital health technologies. And then the committee is also tasked with identifying risks, barriers, and unintended consequences related to FDA policy or regulation for topics related to digital health technologies. The committee may also advise FDA on topics such as AI and ML, cybersecurity, patient-generated health data, just by way of example. So there are some key, just to put in context what's happening with the FDA. I think Alex gave a nice pictograph about FDA's authorization. They've authorized up to already 1,000 AI-enabled medical devices, but none of them so far have used adaptive or generative AI. And again, for level setting, generative AI can mimic input data to create text, images, video, and other content, and the technology poses unique challenges. The models are often developed on such large data sets that developers may not know everything about them. Generative AI models also may change rapidly over time and can generate false content to meet a user's prompt, and these are known as hallucinations. And again, I just raised these as level setting concepts before I get into what the committee, some of the major themes of the committee. So over a 2-day period, you could say a lot of things, but I think some key issues that came up, patients really want to know when AI is being utilized. So in a recent survey, it showed that 91% of patients want to be informed when AI is being used in their clinical care decisions or communications. There's a push to recognize patients as the end users of generative AI-enabled medical devices. So there's a question out there in the marketplace, like who's the end user? Is it the clinician? Is it the patient? And there's a push to have patients actually be defined as the end user. And I think a lot of that revolves around a certain amount of control. There's a push for patients to have the opportunity to provide feedback when AI is applied to their care. And the committee agreed it may be important for patients and providers to know when they are using a generative AI-enabled device. The committee recommended that patients be told how a device is contributing to their care and what information the device is using in its decision-making. And I think this is important. We've seen some press come out and patients actually push back on, particularly in radiology and pathology, where AI has been used to determine whether or not there's abnormalities, and patients are curious, okay, if you take out the AI piece of it, then what do you see? And again, this gets back to that fundamental question, who's the end user and controller of the AI? Is it the clinician or is it the patient? So another key theme, and this keeps coming up over and over again, that health equity is a key issue for generative AI. I think while we all know that AI holds promise to extend care to people in communities with scant resources and the elderly, racial and ethnic minorities in rural communities, there exists increasing concern that the technology could exacerbate existing health inequities. So the committee discussed the need to have equitable device performance as a metric and not just optional. An example was used that in clinical trials, for example, we see a lack of equity across the board. That's been true for a long time. As you all probably know, FDA is taking steps to try and address the inequities in clinical trials. But it was noted that this really needs to change for AI, since we're going to be training future models on existing data. So currently, FDA requires manufacturers to share a review of their AI-enabled devices' overall safety and effectiveness as part of the pre-market review process, including an evaluation of study diversity based on the device's intended use and characteristics. The committee noted that FDA should spell out requirements that AI-enabled devices perform equitably post-market across different communities. But I think this is a really big issue, particularly in the generative and machine learning area, where the data output can really only depend on the input. So if you have inequity at the beginning, you're going to see greater, if not exacerbated, inequity with the outputs. Another key theme is that a process must exist for spotting and reporting errors created by AI. So the committee noted that unlike traditional AI models that predict or classify data, generative AI produces outputs, which can introduce additional layers of regulatory complexity. Nina Kotler, the Associate Chief Medical Officer for Clinical AI at Radiology Partners, offered that the practice has used a generative AI tool that reads radiology reports and generates a summary of findings under the impression section. And a radiologist will check and edit that section before sending off the report. They found that AI-generated impressions had a 4.8% error rate as compared to a 1% error rate from radiologist reads. So the committee concluded that the FDA could play a role in defining adverse events and errors under generative AI and ensuring companies have a process in place if they determine additional guardrails are needed around a model. The process should include a clear reporting mechanism for patients and users if an error is found. So, we see adverse event reporting. It's a typical thing, but in the regulatory space. But the committee noted that there really needs to be something specific for AI, and particularly generative AI. Another discussion came up about hospitals and hospitals needing to develop best practices for AI, and particularly generative AI. The hospital representatives noted that their facilities are not ready to use AI unsupervised. I think there was general consensus there. And the committee commented that hospitals need a framework for evaluating and implementing AI, and that anyone using AI should go through training. It's really a must. The American Medical Association recommended that FDA institute ongoing validation requirements to ensure AI tools perform safely and equitably. And I think that that's a really interesting point that AMA, when they're talking about, I think when we think about FDA, we often talk about it in terms of safety and effectiveness. And we're seeing a lot of the rubric shift over into this safely and equitably. So again, equity is a key theme here. Frederick Chen, the AMA's Chief Health and Science Officer, said that the organization is disappointed that it has not yet seen transparency mandates from the FDA for AI-enabled medical devices. So these are just some of the key themes that came up during the committee. I think we'll see more of these committees, and it's a nice way for us to see how FDA is grappling with or being encouraged to grapple with AI and generative AI specifically. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad to take any questions if you have any, is that FDA recently released its final guidance on marketing submissions for a predetermined change control plan. And just to give you an idea why these predetermined change control plans are particularly important, is that obviously AI and particularly ML devices learn and change and iterate over time. And that really falls outside the FDA's typical framework for reviewing and approving and clearing medical devices, that they might be iterative from design 1 to design 2, but design 1 to design 2 often requires a new clearance or approval. And so the idea is, if devices are going to be changing in real time, how does that happen where FDA can regulate? And so FDA's answer to this is to have a predetermined change control plan. So again, on December 4th, 2024, FDA issued its final guidance, and the final guidance allows device manufacturers to implement pre-approved modifications to their devices in lieu of having to obtain this separate authorization for each significant change prior to implementation. So, it's just to note, while the final guidance is non-binding and doesn't replace, modify, or expand on existing law, it does offer insight into how FDA considers what are called PCCPs, these predetermined change control plans, and applications, and how manufacturers and developers can best utilize these PCCPs. We're going to see a lot of these because this is really the only way you can get at changes in the AI space without having to go back and go through a separate authorization each time there's a change. The final guidance discusses the scope of applicability of PCCPs, that's a tongue twister, policy behind the PCCPs, and the major components necessary to include in submissions for PCCP approval. So if you're in this space, I definitely recommend reading this guidance. It didn't change so much from the draft guidance, which was issued in 2023, but we do see some changes. So the scope and applicability of PCCPs changed. So in contrast to the draft guides, which really focused on machine learning, we see, which is just a subset of these AI device-focused software that uses techniques to continually train algorithms to improve performance based on data. The final guidance actually applies to all artificial intelligence-enabled device software functions. So that's AI-enabled device software functions. And the final guidance discussed how pre-market authorization for AI-enabled device software functions, which I'll call them AI DSFs, with these predetermined change control plans, can be established through many application pathways, including the PMA pathway, the traditional 510K pathway, and the de novo pathway. However, and this is important, despite significant pushback from commentators, PCCPs are not permitted for use in special 510K applications. Further, while manufacturers are allowed and encouraged to discuss their PCCP plans with the FDA through a pre-submission meeting or pre-sub meeting, the final guidance confirmed that FDA does not authorize a PCCP in the pre-sub process. So the PCCPs must include three essential components: a description of the modification, a modification protocol, and an impact assessment. The final guidance describes several core components of the description of the modification that should be included within a PCCP, as well as the types of modifications that the FDA anticipates will be appropriate for inclusion. The guidance anticipates that the following three types of modifications are appropriate for inclusion in a PCCP. The first is modifications related to quantitative measures of AI DSF performance specifications, modifications related to device inputs and compatibility with the AI DSF, and third, certain modifications related to the device's use and performance. The final guidance anticipates that modifications must generally maintain the device with its intended use and indications as is necessary to remain substantially equivalent to the predicate device. However, the final guidance specifies that there may be certain modifications to the indications that are appropriate for inclusion within a PCCP. The final guidance does not elaborate on which modifications to the intended uses may be appropriate for inclusion, though. In addition to a description of the modification, manufacturers are required to include modification protocols in their PCCPs, which describe the methods that will be implemented when developing, validating, and implementing proposed modifications. The final guidance further describes that the modification protocol should include predefined acceptance criteria used to verify and validate modifications to ensure continued device safety and efficacy. The final guidance identified four components of modification protocol that should be included within a PCCP. The first is data management practices. The second is retraining practices. The third is performance evaluation protocols. And the fourth is update procedures, including communication and transparency to users and real-world monitoring plans as applicable. The documentation of the PCCPs should include an impact assessment of the benefits and risks associated with implementing post-approval modifications, as well as how the manufacturer intends to mitigate potential risks. The final guidance discussed the importance of labeling to ensure that consumers are aware of potential for post-market modifications of the AI DSF. Labels for AI DSF with approved PCCPs must explain that the device incorporates machine learning and has an authorized PCCP so that consumers are aware of the need for periodic software updates and how to ensure continued efficacy of their AI DSF. The final guidance also discussed when it may be necessary to modify the PCCP if additional modifications are being considered for the AI DSF, and the FDA anticipates that modifications to PCCPs will require a new marketing submission because of the risk that the modified PCCP may significantly affect the safety or efficacy of the device. In other words, changes to the PCCP would constitute a change to the underlying AI DSF that would require subsequent FDA approval. Finally, the guidance highlights the Q submission program as a tool to access feedback from FDA prior to submitting an application for approval. So that's just a basic summary of the PCCP final guidance. Again, I think this is going to be a really important tool. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I think FDA under the new administration, I think that we'll probably see a certain amount of deregulation, and the new administration coming in, I think is very gung-ho about AI and deregulation. So I think we will probably see a bit of a stepping away from heavily regulating, but at the same time, one way that I think FDA can keep its hands on the wheel is that I think that, you know, these PCCPs are a really nice way for FDA to keep oversight over devices out there and keep its arms around what's happening in the marketplace. I see a couple of comments. One was from Randy saying, agree totally, as developing concern eventually may be that technology could replace human judgment. I think we will see that, Randy. I think that we're absolutely headed in that direction. I mean, that's a lot of what the clinical decision support software is really heading toward. If you see its logical conclusion is that ultimately it could end up supplanting human clinical decision making. And I think that's why during the committee actually was really interested in this idea of hospitals really having to do training so that individuals are trained on AI. But then also, that concept, like I said, I raised that moment where the radiologist, where the AI generated impression was only had an error rate of 4.8% as compared to 1% from actual radiologist reads. So the AI is still not necessarily outstripping human performance. I think we will see a point where it does definitely outstrip human performance. But then that question is, what are the inputs? What are the outputs? Are we seeing equity in the inputs so that we can rely upon the actual outputs? And so there's just, there's a lot of questions there. There's no question about it. And then, there's also this question too, where, thankfully, and this gets into like how hospitals are going to operationalize the use of AI, that it's really important to have a human, given like the error rate that I mentioned, to have a human review the output. And, FDA talks about this in the clinical decision support software guidance, this concept of automation bias, that when we see an automated output, that particularly when we're under temporal restrictions, we're more likely to rely on that output as opposed to our own judgment. So I think that that's going to be something that FDA has to grapple with a bit moving forward, is how to actually manage and deal with the tendency for human bias. If we believe that bias, I mean, that was a criticism of that guidance, was that, we introduced this whole new automation bias, but is that real? Has that been proven out? So I think we'll probably see some more work on that as well. There's another comment from Randy. We're heading toward that situation, and it will be a reality much sooner than we suspect, although it is not already a reality, but we don't know. Yeah, fair point. So that's what I brought to talk about today. I hope that this is helpful and get some context around what FDA is doing around AI and ML, and particularly generative AI. I'm always around for questions. I love discussing this stuff. So if anybody that is listening today wants to even just kick around some ideas over a cup of coffee someday, I'd be glad to do it.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
yeah, so after Michael talk, actually we'll have an additional Q&A. So based on Kyle's talk, we see that the not only the medical device is evolving because of the generate AI, legal framework also evolving. So that's why we topic evolving, yeah, regulatory landscape. And then Michael will talk about how actually the AI itself can have to like the support to the regulators and support to the innovator to like to comply with this kind of like complex and evolving like landscape. So Michael?
Yeah, so thank you very much for your introduction, Alex. So it's my pleasure to speak today on this webinar. So I'm Michael Galliker, based in Switzerland, and I'm the CEO and founder from Regulatory Globe. And our goal is to create a regulatory affairs assistant for regulatory affairs managers and professionals in the medical device and in vitro diagnostic industry. And we have already created a system. We call it ELI. And yeah, what is ELI in the end? So ELI is an AI-based assistant in the medical device industry. And we are trying to solve a couple of problems with ELI. So as you know, the regulatory requirements globally always increase. There are always new regulations and guidelines, and it's really hard to keep up with all these kind of changes. So, and ELI helps to mastering all these global requirements. It also should help to eliminate some language boundaries. So when you have some documents where you're not able to read it because it is in Chinese or Japanese or whatever, then it also can help to get a better understanding about these updated or published regulations. Then, of course, it should also help to save time and costs, and Ellie is also up to date with the newest regulations. So what are the key features from Ellie? So Ellie is globally. It has transparent source. So that means when you use Ellie, you have the opportunity to see which kind of regulations and guidelines are stored in this AI system. So it's really a complete autonomous system which just use all this kind of regulation. So we also known as a RAG system. Then you're able to talk to specific documents if you upload them. It supports multiple languages. It also has an improved prompt system in it. So that means the issue is often when a person use, for example, ChatGPT, often the problem is there that the query is not that clear written. So for example, when you search for MDR, so you know the European MDR regulation, but there's also an UK MDR regulation. There are also some documents in the FDA that's called MDR. And that is really important that when you use such AI system that you're really precise on this kind of questions you have. Otherwise, the system can start to hallucinate. Then you are also able to upload own data. So that can be more specifically for your product. So, and that helps the system to understand more about your products you are working on, if you're in the dental industry or whatever. And then, of course, we also have integrated this news feed that you can check the newest updates. So actual use cases are currently regulatory monitoring, then regulatory research. It helps in initial regulatory assessments. So when a new guidelines has published, then you can create a first initial assessment that gives you a first overview and understanding what is the guideline for. Is it specifically for manufacturers or notified bodies, or is it for a specific product, for a dental product or whatever? Then it also can support in preparation of an intended use. So the intended use of a medical device is one of the beside of the clinical information, one of the most important definition you have to do in the medical device products, because based on that, everything will be then classified and later on registered at FDA or European Commission or whatever. And then we also have integrated a supportive function to classify the medical device product. So that gives you a first overview according to which a rule, according, for example, EU medical device regulation, your product could be classified. So to give you a little bit of difference between ChatGPT and Ellie, so the difference is, of course, the accuracy. So the problem is when you use ChatGPT, you don't know from where the information is coming from. So ChatGPT often uses information from the past, and now you also can use the internet. So it will grab some information from there, and based on that, he will create an answer. And the problem is some information could be right, some information could be wrong, and that will create hallucination. And with this closed system where you just have the regulation, all the guidelines in it, these hallucinations start to drop. And also then helps to increase the accuracy. Then, of course, transparency. So as I've told ChatGPT, you don't know from where the source are. In Ellie, you have a clear transparency, so you can check if the regulation or the guidelines is in the system. Then we have up-to-date information, of course, with the access from ChatGPT to the internet. That's maybe not 100% correct. Then we have this automated assistance for intended purpose, classification, and regulatory affairs assessment, which you cannot probably do with ChatGPT. And then with each question, you also get some helpful links to the specific documents that helps then to verify on your own from where this information is coming from. So, and that helps to speed up your research as well. Then this prompt improvement, so that helps to optimize your questions. And then also you can upload your own data, and this data help the system to, let's say, create your own AI assistant in your specific niche. So a little bit about the specifications. Currently, we have around over 4,000 laws, regulations, and guidelines included, and also over 5,000 web pages from relevant governments like FDA, European Commission, and so on. Currently, there are the following countries in it. So it's US, Europe, with all the member states, Canada, Brazil, India, Australia, Japan, UK, China, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, and Singapore. Then there's also often a little bit of concern about data privacy. So the system is like a private vault. So all the data you upload in your vault are just in your vault. So the data will not be extracted and used for other purposes. So when you upload a document into the ChatGPT, you don't know what happened with this kind of data. And here, that's a closed system that makes it a little bit more trusty. Then, of course, you can delete the data at any time, and it will be completely deleted. So that makes also GDPR conform. Then also a little bit about the limitations. So currently, as we have more a chat interface right now, it's always depend on the quality of the question of the users. So when the question is not that good, then also the answer could be broader. And of course, currently there is no guarantee for accuracy. So it's like talking to a human. So you really have to go in many steps deeper into the detail to really get the information you really like. And then, of course, we currently have no information included that are protected from copywriting. So especially for standards, ISO standards, and so on. So currently there we have just the publicly available information that you can get on ISO.org, for example. So the system understands which kind of standards are there, but it does not understand in a deeper manner what these kind of standards are defined. So this is a short video, but I will switch over to the system to show it live. I think that makes a little bit more sense. So as you can see, it's quite similar currently to a ChatGPT. So you have here the history. Then you can create here a new box, for example. Just call it MDCG for now.
Michael, can you share your screen so I cannot see?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you need to first share your screen.
Yeah.
So we can see your demo. Yeah.
Now you can see, okay,
Yeah.
Thanks for your input. So now you can see the chat interface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So it's like the interface is like ChatGPT. So you have here the history of all your new chats you can create. Then you have here the query bar where you can ask any question. And then we have here some buttons above. And one of the importance right now is this one here. So that's the news button. And this news button is that what I have talked before that gives you the transparency. So you can see here all the updates from the last couple of days. You can also see here we have currently over 4,000 documents included in it. And this has all this kind of countries which I have talked before. The nice thing here is that you can start directly communicate with these kind of documents. So for example, let's take this MCG document. You can start asking. And then here this summarize document button will pop up. And then you can click on this button. It takes currently a bit time, so it's not that quick than a ChatGPT it is. So because it goes to a quite large window of I think around 200K of tokens. So that takes a little bit of time. But what it does, it creates an initial gap assessment, or a regulatory assessment, and this is always in the same structured way. So it starts with the title of the document. Then when it was published, the first publication was in 2019, and the revision 1 is now from December. Then you get the name from who is it published. Then you get a short scope and description about the document, that you get an understanding what is included in this kind of document. Then it also lists up which kind of economic operators are affected. In this case, that are manufacturers of class 2A, 2B, and also in vitro B and C devices, and also the notified bodies, some kind responsible in this kind of document. Then there is also a list of which products could be affected. So sometimes it's specific on dental products or hip implants or contact lens or whatever. Then it will be shown here as well. And then you have 3 to 5 key topics of this document. And also sometimes there is a due date when this regulation or guideline or whatever, especially regulation, when is due date to implement this regulation in your company. And this helps to speed up the process, to go through all these updates to figure out, is it relevant to my company or maybe not that much. And of course, here is this folder structure. So what you can do, you can create your own folders where you can upload documents. You can classify the document according to specific keywords like clinical, PMS, PMCF, technical documentation, or marketing, labeling, usability. So, and this helps the system to understand, to be much clear. So the document will be like labeled to understand it better, what kind of document it is. Yeah. So, and then we also have here this intended purpose creator. So what you can do here is as well, you can click on this button, and what will happen is it start to create a conversation with you. So it change the way how we interact with the chat. So it starts to asking you what kind of product do you have? What is the intended so the name of the medical device, and what's the definition, what is the product? And it will start to ask you around 15 to 20 questions. And based on your response, it will then create you in the end an intended purpose that fits most on the specific description you gave to the system. And the same you also can do here with the product classifier. So when you have created the intended purpose, for example, then you can put that into this classifier. And then it will ask you additional question again. to figure out according to which kind of rules, according to the MDR or to the IVDR, this product be likely classified. And the same also here with the product classifier in the US. So and that helps definitely also startups to start when they create a new medical device product. And of course, we are just in the beginning. So the plan is definitely to improve the whole interface, to make it more user friendly, and to cover much more use cases here on this platform. So then I will switch back to the presentation. If you can still see it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So yeah, and just a short information as well from our AI services we currently have. So we have Ellie that I have presented you, and then we also have an API. So there are many companies that would like to have their own AI system, and there we also can provide this kind of sources via an API, and of course also when there are some need and help with the integration of AI in the business. That's also something we are working on. And here are some of my contact information. So I think I will send your the presentation to you, Alex. So then you can share that also with the people when they would like to check the system. So the web page of this regulation agent is here in this link.
Yeah, please share your PDF after this webinar, and then I will share your present with when I share the recording, right? So please do that. Okay, thank you, Michael. So we have a few minutes more to go. So we'll have a Q&A time. We already have, I think that we already have a lot of the intensively chat over and in chat. So I think that the Kyle already gave a great answer, and then there was some comment. But anyone actually specifically have a question to Michael, then you raise your hand. Anyway, because you have a contact point, so you can personally contact Kyle and Michael. Okay, so Halish, yeah.
I want to thank you for this webinar, and it was so insightful. I had a question from Michael. It is about the data security. You know, the data security is very critical for companies, especially when they're using systems where machine continuously learning from the input data. So how does your system gonna secure this data? I mean, it's very important even for the startups because this machine is always learning and using the data that it's learning. I'll appreciate if you just let me know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So when you in this kind of system we currently have, that's a cloud-based system. So that means the data are stored in a cloud from one of the bigger suppliers like Google or Amazon and so on. And of course, they have some data, cybersecurity and privacy and so on. So that's all what we can document and also share with the users of this platform. The only point which we are currently not 100% sure that this is protected is when the information you put in, and when you start the query, then it's process and retrieve this information and send that to an API from, let's say, OpenAI, and they will create a text out of this information and send it back. We are on our side, we are using Anthropics. We have an agreement with them, but in the end, we are not 100% sure what they really do with this kind of data. They all say, yes, we protect the data, they are safe, but that's something anyway, also with the other platforms, you never can guarantee. This is also a little bit the reason why we have created the API. So when you really want to use these systems and you don't want to have these concerns that some important information go to a third party, then the easiest way is that you set up your own AI system internally, where you have a server, also some GPU, and then set up all there. And then you can use the API from us, where you just get all the regulation updates, and then you can process that internally in your company. The other way is that you just don't upload any confidential information to the system.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, it was a great time to the Kyle and Michael to share your great insight about the agenda topic. So as I told you that this recording will be shared, and when I share, actually Michael will send me his presentation PDF, so I will share again.
I'll send
And
mine
then,
as well, Alex.
yeah, Kyle, do you have anything to talk?
I'll send you my PDF as
Oh,
well.
okay. Okay, yeah. Please send me after
Yeah.
this meeting because I'm going to upload this recording and I'm going to share this afternoon. So please send it to me. And announcement, next Friday we are going to have a like an end of year because you know that I organize this kind of webinar many times. So I have a like in my list about 1,000 participants. They attended many different time. Actually, the unduplicate number is 1,000. They are all in this space, healthcare and digital health, AI in healthcare and other topics. So they're all your peers. So it's good opportunity to like just if you have not much time, just join. I already shared the like Zoom meeting link. So just attend and then show up. And then if you're a speaker, then say to others to that whatever you end of year like a comment. So anyway, because I will invite to all 1,000 participants in my webinar. And then I hope to see you next week. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.